Want to know the latest and hottest music hitting the airwaves? Don't be left out. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Music Podcast. It keeps you on the loop with everything you need to know from pop, rock, hip-hop, and the top 40. And we'll throw in news of your favorite artists, concert and tour dates, and so much more. Listen no further, because this is the gold standard in music podcast.
Thank you all for tuning into the GSMC Music Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Cera Baker. Thank you guys so much for joining me here on this episode, where we'll dive into this week's new releases that stood out to me. Take a look at the global top 50 charts that made notable movement, and a blast from the past where we go into the music world of the history. So, history's music world, what was going on, specifically on April 27th is what I'm going to tune into this episode. And stick around for the very end, where I'll be talking about my band of the week. So fun stuff this episode. We might as well just start diving in. Again, these new tracks that I'm going to be talking about are just the ones that I felt needed to be spoken about, that I wanted to chat about, that I thought were worth chatting about. We're going to start top of the pop list here. Save Your Tears, featuring The Weeknd and Ariana Grande. So it's a remix of Save Your Tears. You know, listening to Save Your Tears by The Weeknd from when it's been released in the past, it's been fine. In my opinion, I never really liked the song. I didn't find it very catchy. If it came on my playlists, on my radio, I would just skip it, in all honesty. I'm not going to lie to you. And I expected, the combination of The Weeknd and Ariana Grande's release to be a lot more lively. I don't think what I was expecting was reasonable, though. Looking back at it, it's not like they were going to re-release a song as a remix, featuring Skrillex or something like that. This is just a remix with Ariana Grande. I think they mainly did that so that the song could top the charts again. But in all honesty, I understand why everyone's going to eat this up. But for me, coming from a musical background, knowing what The Weeknd has put out in the past, knowing what Ariana Grande has put out in the past, this just seems like a pop musical cop-out that they really could have done something more with. So, starting it off kind of harsh, but the truth will prevail. And this is my truth. Next song, a little on the harsh side as well, I wanted to mention is Come Through, featuring her and Chris Brown. I absolutely adore her. Her artistry, the tone of her voice, what she has put out into this world. Chef's kiss, people. Okay, I think that her voice and her as an artist is so gorgeous. And I will never forgive Chris Brown for doing what he did to Rihanna. I don't care how good his music is. I don't care how funny he might seem. I'm not going to give him the time of day. And knowing her background, knowing what she stands for, the things that she puts all of her soul and her heart into, the way that she presents herself within culture, within society, just doesn't seem like she would decide, yeah, you know what? Let me do a collaborative track with Chris Brown. I figured that she would respect herself or her art a little bit more. I I'm not saying that the track was bad. Obviously, I think that it had a really nice feeling. Loved the song, but I just don't love Chris Brown. And so I would like to see the track maybe with a Chris Brown-esque voice, right? Someone else featured on it, but yeah. Love her, hate him. Ha ha ha. Moving forward. I wanted to talk about an EP that came out with Noah Cyrus and PJ Harding. The name of it is escaping me at the moment, but I think that the feel of it was really, it's called People Don't Change. I thought that the feel of it was really nice. You know, knowing how Noah Cyrus has put out music in the past, the feel that she's gone for, and listening to this EP, I think it was about 6 songs, listening to this, it felt like this was the pocket that she needs to sit in for a while. You know how some people find their musical footing and really just soak it in like a beautiful little musical sponge? She was Noah Bob Square Cyrus, okay? She fit into this little sponge of music perfectly, I thought, with this EP, with PJ Harding. Love PJ Harding's voice himself as well. The collaboration there was excellent. So if you like a sort of, not folk, but a chill, you know, coffee in the morning, let me also possibly cry, go for this EP. Speaking of cry, we're going to move on to another release that I think is very much so worth mentioning. Ben Platt released his song Imagine. He did a pretty good job advertising it on TikTok. If you don't know Ben Platt, he is a beautiful soul, first of all. He started off his A-list, I guess, status through Pitch Perfect. If you have not seen that movie, get hip, go back, and get your pitch on. but Ben Platt was first featured in that, and he, of course, made his, I guess, revival of stardom through Dear Evan Hansen. He played Evan Hansen, and yeah, it was he was good in that, obviously, waving through a window. That was excellent. But he released this song. What he said at first was that this song was written about his dog, which I think is so adorable. If you don't know the words of the chorus is, I can't imagine my life without you. And just, you know, that is just so cute. Like, everybody loves their dogs. Everybody loves their pets. Whether you're a dog person, cat person, lizard person, pet rock person, you love them. You find a connection. And if this song does actually happen to be about Ben Platt's dog, he hit the nail on the head and really just dove into this beautiful little relationship that he has with a fluffy little buddy. So listen to the song. Not only are the lyrics good, but I really do think that the production is good. It's weird. In my opinion, it is kind of weird to hear him in a more pop setting. You know, he stemmed from a cappella / musical theater backgrounds, and when voices like that kind of dive into this world of pop music, you know, top 50 pop music style songs, it's a little weird, but I think that he pulls it off pretty well. There's some voices that really can't, but he is one of them that I think it's clicking with this audience. So definitely give that song a listen. Something that I thought was really interesting that I wanted to note was Weezer's new 3-song EP. You know, the songs each fit with the definition of Weezer, but I wouldn't say that they all felt like Weezer. So the very first one was called I Need Some of That, and it felt very pop. It felt like they were trying to market too hard to the radio. It just didn't feel right. I understand what they were going for, but it just wasn't my cup of tea, my Weezer tea, if you will. I didn't vibe with the pop vibes. However, the next track, Hero, I thought was pretty good. It felt like it fit in the pocket of Weezer. It felt like this is what Weezer was made to write. You know, it's their style. And the end of the game, the third track, really started off, when I first listened to it, it starts off with a really intense, just classic rock, 80s electric guitar solo, and then it transformed slowly into a sort of Stacy's Mom feel. I really just picked up on that musical feeling during that track. I was just like, I feel like somebody out there on the internet's gonna find a way to mash up Stacy's Mom and The End of the Game by Weezer. Who knows if it's actually gonna happen. Lyrically, I felt like it kind of worked with what Weezer usually does. There was one lyric that I just feel like I need to point out. Weezer in, I think it was in The End of the Game, says, "You had me crying like when Aslan died." For some reason, if you ever were into Narnia, you would know, first of all, spoiler alert, okay, if you've not dove into the Narnia series and you plan to, I guess, skip forward a little bit through my next minute or so, but yeah, for him to say, "You had me crying like when Aslan died," I just thought that was hilarious that was the metaphor or the simile. It was a simile that he chose to use. I mean, obviously I got it, related, but strange, interesting choice. I do think, though, that the EP is worth listening to, at least the second song, and you know what, I would skip I Need Some of That if you want. If you want to hear the pop vibes, go for it. But I definitely think that listening to The End of the Game, just to hear this Stacy's Mom feeling, is very much so worth listening to. Quickly diving into then 2 albums that came out that I want to talk about. The very first one is by Lizzie McAlpine. She blew up on TikTok. That's really happening to the music scene right now. If you're not famous on TikTok, it's hard for you to really be famous outside of that unless you had some sort of following beforehand. But Lizzie McAlpine started on TikTok releasing songs that she was writing, just her and her guitar. And this album that she released is essentially the same exact thing. It's really her just diving into it. I believe, what is the name of it? It's something, oh goodness. Regardless of what the name is, listening to each song, it was really cool because the production of it was 1000% indie production. Indie production is so huge in that it's so raw. And all of the songs just sounded like she was sitting in her room just playing her guitar and singing. It was called When the World Stopped Moving. And it says it's called the Live EP. Obviously, we don't know how live is for this, but regardless, it really just felt so raw. And I loved just the feeling. Her voice is beautiful. You could tell it had very, very minimal correction on it. And she was just sitting there feeling. There was one track that had some horns on it. It was Angelina. But I think it's cool to note that, without Phoebe Bridgers, artists like this wouldn't become as big as they are. And so props to Phoebe Bridgers for opening a door that artists like this could really just run through. Last but not least, though, I wanted to mention Kaleo. First of all, I don't know how to say that. Secondly, I found out this band's from Iceland. That's crazy. Their album's Surface Sounds came out, and it was very chill rock. I think that if we were to describe it, it would be chill pop rock. At least from what I picked up on the album. They released that song prior to the release of the album, the song Skinny, but yeah, and obviously that track was really good. It picked up a lot of footing on the global just charts. People stream that a lot, I'm pretty sure. I think it's in their top 3 songs streamed on Spotify now just because of the popularity of it. But for, Kaleo to not have released such a popular album since 2016, it's really cool that they were able to come out and really just stay with their sound. Nothing about the album felt really special to me. I hate to say it, but I'm gonna give it a few more chances and listen through it a few more times. But yeah, it really did fit in with their previous album feeling, which is nice. You know, sometimes artists, and I'm gonna give them credit for it, let them do it. You know, change the music, change your style, make the music you want to. You don't always have to cater to an audience. But it is kind of refreshing or comforting when an artist like this, creates the same sound that they did literally 5 years ago. So good on them. Give that a listen if you dare. So that's my hot take this week with a few new releases that I thought were worth mentioning. Give them a listen. Let me know what you think. And stay tuned for the next segment after a word from our sponsor.
Always on the go, but the day just won't be one without your Hollywood fix. Let Golden State Media Concepts Entertainment Podcast take care of that. An all-inclusive look of pop culture.
Hello again. Welcome to the second segment. We're just going to be diving into this week's global top 100 chart. You know, a lot of times it's not going to be very different from the week before, but it's still interesting to note that movement, however minimal, that is very notable, especially in the global charts. When you think about global, oftentimes I think because of social media, we all forget how big this world is, how much music is coming out every single day, and the fact that the global top charts can remain stagnant sometimes is really freaking impressive. So keep that in mind, even if you lose interest in the idea that, okay, this person is still at this number. Well, good on them, okay? But yeah, I might contradict myself in a few minutes, so hang on there and just wait until you can call me out. Speaking of calling me out, I'm more like calling you by your name. Montero by Lil Nas X, still at the global number 1 position. I recall a few weeks ago being told or thinking that the song was going to be taken off of streaming platforms due to the content of it, which, first of all, not cool. It's music. Music is freedom. Hello. But I'm surprised that it wasn't. For some reason, I'm glad that I'm surprised. I'm sad that I'm surprised, but I'm glad that it didn't happen. But, yeah, it's still sitting up here. Top in the global charts. Love that for Lil Nas. He really deserves this. I think the stardom that came with Old Town Road was so crazy immediate, and it sucks that it all happened in a blink of an eye, I think a lot of artists like growing into their fame, but at the same time, I'm glad that he is now growing, but in a way that shows that he is his own artist, that he's going to be growing for himself and showing himself, not catering to the wants of, say, parents of his consumers. So good on him, topping the global number 1 charts again. So another consecutive week sitting in this spot. Same goes for number 2. It's Peaches by Justin Bieber featuring Daniel Caesar. Yeah, you know, I love Daniel Caesar. I mentioned this last time. I think the song is just a wee bit too fast, but regardless, it's still good. It gets you moving. You can't deny the fact that you just want to wiggle a little bit, just do a little shoulder, close your eyes, ball up your fists like close to your chin, and just wiggle your shoulders. That's what this song makes me feel like. I think you can see it. I think you can do it now. Imagine the song in your head. Go ahead. Yeah, exactly. It's a wiggling song. Not like the Wiggles would sing this, but it is a wiggling song. Yeah, good stuff. It's good to see Daniel Caesar at the top of the charts. I think that he deserves that too. He's just an amazing artist. His Colors performance, if you've ever seen that on YouTube, go and listen to it. It's incredible. He's just standing there, holding a little cup of tea, just singing, just vibing. It's beautiful. Makes you want to hug him. Makes you wish that he could hug you. So, number 3 is the same from last week, Rap Star by Polo G. Good on him as well. He's sitting up there, put his heart into that, really just let himself be raw in this track, and he made it. I also want to make a note that the top 3 spots in the global charts all feature, if not are starring, a black artist. And I think that that's really important and really awesome to note. It's shows you that we're not letting our consumerism be so based in just what white people are making anymore. I feel like that was just the thing a lot of times in the top charts in the 60s and 70s, even the 80s. 80s was like, I think, when it started, kind of transforming a little bit, but just knowing that the top 3 spots are featuring black artists is really, really cool. So, love that. Number 4 did a little flip-flop with number 5. So, this week, number 4 is Levitating by Dua Lipa featuring DaBaby. It's important to note, I guess, that it is the version featuring DaBaby. I like the song a lot. When DaBaby was on it, I thought it was fine. But I think the production of this song is so simple, but so freaking catchy. I mean, come on, so good. They're really just diving into what do people want to dance to. Levitating is just such a dancing song. I remember one night my friend and I were listening to this song, just dancing our butts off until 3 a.m. We played this song on repeat for probably a good hour. Make fun of me all you want, but guess who was having a great time? This chick. Levitating by Dua Lipa. However, that means that Leave the Door Open, so Bruno Mars and Anderson .Paak, their duo Silk Sonic, went down a little bit. I'm surprised that a song of this style kind of got up so high on the charts as is. I'm not surprised because it's Anderson .Paak and Bruno Mars, but it's interesting to know that that song was able to climb pretty high up and sit there for a bit. So, love that. But I'm not, like I said, I'm not surprised that it's starting to go down. I'm curious if next week it's going to sit even lower. We'll find out, obviously. My guess is yes. You got to think about there are more and more tracks coming out, especially because of something that I'll be mentioning in a little bit, which I've chosen to actually just mention now. Billie Eilish, of course, if you're keeping up with Instagram, she posted on Instagram, I think she posted on TikTok too, that she's coming out with a new track this Friday that is prefacing an album that's coming out in July. So the darkness of When We All Fall Asleep, Where Do We Go, that album has left her. If you have not seen, she dyed her hair blonde, and now she's in just this, it looks like the same aesthetic of Beauty School Dropout from Grease. That same glowy, sort of dreamy aesthetic. So I'm wondering if that means her music's going to parallel it. But I digress. Number 6, Astronaut in the Ocean. That one also popped down a little bit. Not much to say on that. I don't really like that song. So, if you guys like it, have fun liking that song. Not my cup of tea. Kiss Me More by Doja Cat and SZA, sitting at 7. Somebody made a comment to me, and I kind of understand and I agree with this, that a lot of Doja Cat's most popular songs sound very, very similar. I think that because she has become so popular with the certain songs that she made, like Say So. I think she's nervous to branch off. Then again, Streets sounds very different. I don't know. Maybe I'm not giving her enough credit as she deserves. I think Doja Cat is such a freaking cool, funny, hilarious, talented, beautiful woman. But I do see the point that somebody made to me, that it seems like her music all sounds the same. I hate it when people say that about artists, but I can understand why that person would say that. Number 8, Deja Vu, Olivia Rodrigo. This girl, it is so crazy to know that she is so young and just topping the charts. Granted, you gotta remember that she came from High School Musical, the series. Have I seen it? No. Did I just say the title perfectly? Yes. Am I impressed by myself? Indeed. The Deja Vu song is really good. The production of it's really good. And I'm excited to hear her new album. I'm not exactly sure when that's coming out, but when it does, you bet your buns I'm going to listen to it with my whole heart. And I'm just going to close my eyes and remember that I was once, a 17, 18-year-old girl who fell in love and fell out of love. And it's important to remember that those feelings are so valid when you're that age. And it's really cool to know that there are artists out there that age that are able to articulate those feelings in such a simple but impactful way, just like in Deja Vu. Number 9 went down because Deja Vu went up. It was Save Your Tears by The Weeknd. Not surprised. You heard from my last section. Not the biggest fan. I'm not going to deny it. It's whatever. Number 10, we go to Heartbreak Anniversary. Just sitting here by Giveon. I feel bad. I actually don't really... I'm sitting here in this moment and forgetting what that song sounds like. But it was here last week, and it's here this week. So those are the global top 10. And moving forward, the number 11 song on the global, so global, remember, huge scale, is Solid by Young Thug and Drake. So Young Thug, I believe, released an album this week. I have not listened to it, so I was not going to try to talk about it earlier, but I have good things to say, or I've heard good things. And one of the good things, too, that I can even just see, looking at the global top charts, Young Thug has 3 songs in the top 50 after releasing this album this past Friday. And it's pretty interesting, cool to note. Of course, the number 11 song, I guess his number 1 song on the global charts is featuring Drake. I'm not surprised that is the one that saw the most people were driven towards that one. So I am not surprised by that. And I'm curious to see if it's going to climb anymore. My best guess is that yes, it is going to climb. And next week it's going to do a flip with Heartbreak Anniversary, or maybe even get in front of Deja Vu. I'm going to say it. I just believe it because Drake has such a huge following. I'd be very, very surprised if that did not just keep on climbing. Of course, Blinding Lights by The Weeknd is at number 12, and that's going down. So same with Driver's License by Olivia Rodrigo. I think it's because Young Thug featuring Drake popped up at 11. And it's crazy to think that Driver's License has lasted this long up at the top, but, every middle school girl's singing this, crying their heart out, so it makes sense. I'm trying to think if they're really the only other new tracks in the global top 100. One of them is Renegades by One OK Rock. They are a Japanese rock band. I listened to this song and I really, really liked it. I make a little playlist for myself every week of songs, every month of songs that I really like, that I vibe with, and listening to the song, I immediately added it to my little playlist for myself because I just really liked this rock vibe. If you haven't picked up on it, I do really enjoy rock music, and I've never even heard of them. I felt bad that I hadn't heard of this group, and I'm glad to see that they just plopped into number 47 in the global top 50 with this song Renegades. No, it does not sound anything like Renegades by Ex-Ambassadors. It sounds like its own awesome thing that I honestly gave like an 8 out of 10 just from what I heard. I'm curious to hear the rest of it and see what else happens in the song, of course. But that's the Billboard, Global 100, the top 50 at least, from what I have to say about the top 50 from this past week. So, good stuff. My assumption with Billie Eilish's new album coming out in July, and I believe a new song coming out this coming Thursday, she's definitely going to plop into the charts. Where? My best guess, and I'm gonna say this. You can call me out if I'm wrong, but I am gonna say this. I think she might go directly to number 1 because it's Billie Eilish. I mean, she just has such a huge, huge following. And the vibe that she's given off for this next album, very beauty school dropout, Grease scene, just glowy, dreamy, compared to When We All Fall Asleep, Where Do We Go? I mean, night and day. Literally. I think that was what the intention was. Literal night and day change. But I'm curious if the music's going to parallel that. She might go back to a softer feel because her look is so soft. But who knows? Only time will tell. Can't wait to talk about it with you all in the next episode. But for now, stick around until after this commercial break, where I'm going to be diving to a little bit of musical history from April 27th. What's really interesting is that some of the stuff I have to say kind of relates to this global Billboard chart right now. So you're not going to want to miss out. Stick around. I'll be right back.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Hello, everyone. We're back again. Welcome back to the GSMC Music Podcast. This next segment, we're going to be talking about the history of musical things. Some musical things that happened on April 27th throughout time that I think is really interesting, must be talked about. So hold on to your darn hats, because we're going to just dive in here. Some of these things, and like I mentioned too, it's going to be really interesting because certain things about what's going on in the top charts now kind of parallel this or relate to today's society, and some things about different events, right, that happened in the past are very interesting and kind of relate to today's society in a very strange way. So let's just dive into this, shall we? Starting in 1963. Woo, 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 woo. Just go all the way back. Little Peggy March. Little Peggy March, she was 15 years old, 1 month and 13 days old. Okay, she was a female singer. And she started a 3-week run at the #1 spot in the US singles chart with a song called I Will Follow Him. So she spent 3 weeks at #1, and she has been, I believe, and still is, the youngest female singer to have a US #1 record. Again, I don't know if that's true. I do know that, at least we know, Olivia Rodrigo is older than 15, okay? So that's one thing to note. And I believe Olivia Rodrigo sat at the top for quite some time. But to think that a 15-year-old girl in 1963 was able to top the charts for 3 consecutive weeks, it's kind of crazy. I'm sure she, hung out in the top 5, top 10 for quite some time after that. But really cool stuff. I looked her up as well, and she does not have more than, I think, 5 songs on Spotify. I looked up the song as well, and it's interesting because I'm pretty sure a bunch of music has sampled this in some way. Definitely give it a listen, just for a brief moment. First of all, it sounds exactly like 1963 would sound. And secondly, you might pick up on some different production things that you think came from this song, or songs that were sampled from this song. So that's a cool little thing to note. Another thing that I want to dive into was in 1971, the Grateful Dead appeared at the Fillmore East in New York City. So it's a huge venue. If you don't know, now you know. And the Beach Boys appeared on stage with the Grateful Dead, who performed a short set of Beach Boy songs. Could you imagine going to a Grateful Dead concert? You're a Deadhead for days, and then all of a sudden, Surfin' USA comes on, and people just jamming on that. I mean, I wanted to mention this because I could just see a crowd of people in 1971 at this concert freaking out and just vibing and loving this so much. All of these people geeking out, just Surfing USA with Grateful Dead, Jerry Garcia catching some waves with the Beach Boys. Just thought that would be, first of all, it was a very fun visual, but think about it more in concept. It's really interesting to me, and I'm so curious how that all played out. What was the drive there? When did the Grateful Dead say, you know what? The Beach Boys? Yeah, they're coming on stage with us. I'm curious if any other strange collabs like that have happened in recent times too. And maybe it's not that strange. Maybe I'm just acting strange and just not understanding it. But yeah, just thought it was pretty interesting that collaborative musical occurrence occurred. One thing that was not too cool that happened on April 27th, and first of all, I need to disclaim that I'm not trying to drag this artist in any way, shape, or form. This artist is historic, iconic, but this is very much so worth noting, and I don't know if you knew this, because I really did not know this, and it blew my mind. I guess I should have done a little bit more research on this, and I know you're just chomping at the bit to get me to say what's going on here, so I guess I'm just going to say it. 1976, customs officers on a train at the Russian/Polish border detained, drumroll please, David Bowie. Okay, David freaking Bowie, after Nazi books and mementos were found in his luggage. What the heck? What the heck? Could you imagine that headline? I mean, first of all, the headlines are just crazy, and they just say horrible, crazy things sometimes. But, oh my gosh. David Bowie being arrested with Nazi paraphernalia and, like mementos. Like, that's really concerning. But what he ended up saying afterwards was that the material was being used for research on a movie project about Nazi propaganda leader Joseph Goebbels. I don't even know how to say his name. I was saying that I should have researched this before because, one, I should have researched this before. I am curious if after that moment, David Bowie was a part of some sort of film production, because they did let him go. After he claimed this, they let him go. And it shakes me a little bit. I really should have looked up, and feel free to Google it right now, and then just message me on social media, please, letting me know if this was real, or excuse me, if this was justifiable, because the evidence that what he claimed was true. But holy crap, that's not cool, David Bowie. I don't care if you're just researching something. I don't know. That's just, you don't just keep that in your luggage. Why are you bringing that? I mean, him being in that area kind of makes sense, but still, not a good look in 1976. 1976. Think about that. Crazy. So, yeah, like I said, not a good look for David Bowie. I, again, am not trying to drag David Bowie, this absolute king/queen, okay? Will not do it, won't do it, but I am going to say, what the bleep, David. Moving down the chronological line of the earth and history of music, on it, USA for Africa. Same with Little Peggy March. In 1985, USA for Africa started a three-week run at number 1 in the U.S. charts with the song "We Are the World." If you have not heard this song, I can't help you at this point. I really can't. I can't, because this song was absolutely iconic. And it's interesting to know that it only had a 3-week run at number 1, because this, first of all, if you don't know what this song was, it was meant for like the Band-Aid, and so it was to help kind of unify people, bring people together, and show that change needs to happen. And it featured just the craziest collection of artists. So Stevie Wonder, Bruce Springsteen, Billy Joel, Ray Charles, Cyndi Lauper, Tina Turner, Diana Ross, Paul Simon, Michael Jackson, and Lionel Richie composed it. So this really first and foremost defined who was famous, okay, in 1985. And it really, to me, it prefaced the "We Love the Earth" attempt that Lil Dicky came out with. I think that was 2 years ago. Definitely, it tried to do that. Or, excuse me, yeah, Lil Dicky's track tried to do that with a more comedic tone. But, meh, it's fine. Yeah, but this song, it's cool to know that it came out 1985 and sat at the top of the charts for 3 weeks. So love that. Love that. Another thing that I think is pretty cool and that I do love is that in 2003, Madonna went number 1 on the UK, so not like the global or US charts. Number 1 in the UK album charts with American Life, and it was her 8th number 1 album. And it obviously was also a US number 1 album, but I don't think it happened today in the US. It is, why I wanted to mention this is because 2003, Madonna has spent her entire life in the spotlight, just crushing the game, taking names, living in a material world. I don't think that the artistic choices she has taken in much recent days with like Madonna, Madam X, where she's like a pirate now. She's got an eye patch, if you didn't know. Not my favorite Madonna phase. But it's still cool because in 2003, this was her 8th number 1 album. Can you imagine having 8 number 1 albums? I absolutely cannot. I'm so impressed that an artist can do that. And the fact that she was able to just do that time and time again is just really impressive. Obviously, this has not happened for her since. I really don't know. I'm curious. I think her downfall, this sounds rude to say downfall, but I feel like her change of acceptance, mainstream acceptance, kind of happened around 2012, 2013. From there, it's just kind of like, all right, bye, Madonna. See you later. See you around town. But who knows? Maybe Madam X is going to come out with something that just kicks everyone in the face. In a good way. A good kick in the face, if you will. Anyways, moving forward. This one I thought was so crazy because I completely forgot about this. 2008, 15-year-old Miley Cyrus makes entertainment news when she appears in Vanity Fair in a towel. Do you guys remember this? I cannot believe that I forgot this and just how scandalous it was. I mean, obviously, people thought it was more tasteful than scandalous because it was really just her back. But I remember, at least from my perspective, I was pretty young when all this happened, and I thought that this was so crazy. I remember thinking, oh my gosh, what's happening to Miley Cyrus? Girl, prepare yourself, because now look at this woman, the mullet rocking, rock rocking, just bad butt lady that has claimed her fame in the rockiest way. Rocky is in rock, the genre, not rocky like a rocking chair. Why is that the analogy I chose? Who knows? Regardless, she is such a different person now. I think with her being in Disney, we all expected her to be just this idealized version of just a kid. I think with Disney stars, we all think that they just need to remain kids. And yes, okay, she was a child. She was 15 when this came out. So I'm still thinking, yeah, it was pretty freaking scandalous. That's a child. 15-year-olds is a child, people. And apparently she was coerced into taking the photo with, like, her Disney contract, which is even weirder. But it's cool to know that the sex appeal that she has now and the drive that she has with her artistry is for herself now. She's not doing this for anyone else. She's doing what she loves, and she loves to rock. And I love watching her love to rock. So I thought that was interesting to note where we were on this day in 2008. So those are some really interesting, notable things that happened in musical history just on April 27th. I mean, that's really cool to think about. So much has happened in time, and so much can happen in just one day throughout time. So I just wanted to mention all that stuff today. I hope that you guys found that pretty interesting. And I do definitely think you're going to find my band of the week pretty interesting. I'm excited to talk about them. I hope y'all are excited. So stick around after this commercial break where I'll be diving into my band of the week.
Watching TV has changed over time. Streaming has become the new norm. That's why Golden State Media Concepts television podcast dives headfirst to the world of cord cutting. Want to be on the loop of what's hot in Netflix? Or if it's not a preference, what about original shows in Hulu? We've got you covered. Join us as we fill in the blank and talk about movies to stream and what show you should be binging. This is the Golden State Media Concepts television podcast.
Hey everyone, thanks again for hanging in here with me to finish off this episode of the GSMC Music Podcast. So, my band of the week This is the last segment. I'm just going to roll with it, go with it, let you guys know about a band that I think deserves to be chatted about and get a little bit more loving from the people in this world. This week, I'm going to start with a band. To say that Google says that their genre is pop, and I say that that is very rude. It is not true. They are not a pop band. I would like to consider them, as some headlines have considered them before, a groove machine. Yes, I will be sticking with this terminology of groove machine. What is the band, you ask? Some of you may know them. Others will be so thankful that I told them about them today. The group is called Ripe. R-I-P-E, like a fruit. I wish I knew why they named themselves Ripe. I really can't tell ya. I've tried to find out, and I did my digging, and no answers really came to the surface. But I do know a good chunk, and I'm going to talk about, the formation of this band, of this groove machine, and my take on their music, right? And then how their music has changed since they really came into the musical spotlight. So let's dive into it. Ripe is a 7-piece sort of funk, jazz rock inspired group. So 7-piece, so there's a singer, there's a guitarist, there's a bassist, there's a horn section, and there's a drummer. So that's basically what a 7-piece band means. This band was formed in 2011. Where did they meet, you might ask? At the Berklee College of Music. So that in itself, right, too, lets you know, okay, this band's not messing around. They've got their stuff together. They've got their musical freaking stuff together. They met at a very highly accredited college for music. John Mayer went to the Berklee College of Music. So good musicians end up at this college. Obviously, some bad musicians might end up there too. But overall, they get a pretty good crowd in there. And so this band, met at the Berklee College of Music just a few weeks after starting school, which is kind of crazy if you think about it. Getting into school and then all of a sudden meeting this group of people that you're going to end up becoming a very successful band with. I mean, what are the odds, right? So they all ended up meeting at parties, basically at a party house place where people would play music. I think it was called, oh goodness, what was it called? The Alston House shows. And they loved just making music together. Boston is a very music-based community. And they just started kind of jamming together about a few weeks after they got into school. And, jamming is very common for music students in schools. They get together and just kind of hang out and just mess around, play music, instead of getting into crazy X-rated, not rated things, as many college students do. Music college students often jam together and have just a freaking good time while doing it. And when this group met together, they then realized that they kind of wanted to do this as a band. And the time then moved forward from there. So Robbie Wolfson is the main singer, and his voice, I need to tell you all first and foremost that his voice has got to be one of my favorite voices / tones I've ever heard in a sort of 7-piece band like this. I think his voice is so unique. He's got, when they first started, and I'll dive into this too later when I talk about their music, when they first started, his voice didn't have a lot of control. He had the power, but he didn't have, it's like he had a really nice car, and he didn't really know how to drive it. It was a stick, and he was still confused about how to make all the gears go the right way. that being said, of course, they still made amazing music from the beginning. The group itself was so tight, and you could tell that Robbie Wolfson has said that he wanted the group to appeal to not only, like, Fish fans, so the band Fish, if you don't know them, they're a jam band, like a rock jam band back in the day, but also D'Angelo fans. And if you don't know D'Angelo, like I've said earlier in this episode, you are doing yourself a disservice, and I don't know how to help you. D'Angelo is an incredible, like, R&B, like, rap, not rap, but, I don't know, R&B sort of rap artist. And to think that those are two sides of the coin that they chose, the ripe coin, is really interesting. It's hard for me to pick up on that. I really can't hear that. Like, I wish I could, but I just truly can't. But regardless, I think that the music that they've made, this jazz, funk, jam band, soul-driven, high-energy music, you know, Robbie likes to say that it's dance music, but that then makes you think that it's EDM, and it's not EDM in the slightest, because they all use their own live instruments. When the band really first started getting some footing was when they did an Audio Tree live video series. So Audio Tree, if you're unaware of what they are, they're a music company with very popular live video series, plural, that take really comfortable, top-notch musicians and then give them some top-notch production. And in my experience watching their Audio Tree live thing, it made me so attracted to them because their energy was so fun. And you could tell that they were new to the scene. And I think a lot of times people don't give new or entry-level artists the chance to be entry-level artists. With today's society, we expect that if you're a small artist, somehow you're going to get your hands on an amazing production team, an amazing, you know, fit yourself in the pocket that you need to, that people really want you to. That's just not how musical growth is. Musical growth is, let me figure out the music that we want to make, that we like to make, and that people like to listen to. And let us craft it a little bit more with every release. And the reason why I bring up Ripe is because I really do think that they've been able to do that with the songs that they've created and the production that they've been able to see. So, yeah, they started in Boston, and they've grown ever since into just a really tight, and they've remained high energy. Their groupies are called, like, the Green Headband Gang. I was definitely a part of it. I never got to go to any live shows, but I followed the Green Headband Gang, and they were basically just people that, they were their little groupies, essentially. And it sucks because I wish that live music was still happening. Artists like this band, it's really hard to appreciate their artistry without getting to see them live. And me coming from a musical background, seeing their Audio Tree live thing, I could just imagine how that felt in that moment, to watch it, to feel it, to hear it. And so I clung to this group because I just thought that they were so freaking cool. And their just dance funk outfits and the 7-piece just connection of everything was so, it's like glamorously relaxed. But, you know, moving forward, so looking at all the music they've released, so the band formed really in like 2011, 2012. And since then, they've come out with a lot of music. Their first, I guess, was it an EP? Yeah, it was an EP in 2013. Produced The Juice. Maybe that's why they called themselves Ripe. I'm sure that it stemmed from some funny studio encounter. But those songs were so good. And their 5th song on the EP, Pretty Dirty in the Fading Light, is still, literally, I'm not kidding you, is still in their top 5 songs. It's their number 2 song now with 5.5 million streams. And it's a freaking good song, too. Gotta let you know. But that album was really underproduced in a strange way. I gotta admit it. You know, it just wasn't high quality, but the music that they were making was so high quality. It felt so good. It felt so good to listen to. So it's definitely important to note that their first EP, 5 songs, Produce the Juice, was killer. Their second EP, Hey Hello, that they dropped in 2015, was honestly the perfect transition from the production that they had before. You can tell that it's a little bit more well produced. Some of the songs are a little bit more fun. Okay, so now they're branching into more fun vibe like Goon Squad. My friend in high school showed me Goon Squad. I remember listening to it and thinking, wow, this is dope. This is super fun. And it still remains one of my favorite songs. I love it. It's one of those songs where I put it on, I get up and dance. If you're in a bad mood, okay, let me just listen to Goon Squad. Their song Carolee is so good too. Gosh, it's like, I wish I could talk their music, if that makes sense. I wish that you all could hear their sound, because the energy, I mean, you can even hear in my voice when I'm just talking about them. It brings so much energy into me, because the energy that they put into these performances is killer, even if they're in the studio. And so they did the audio tree in like 2016. They released that online as well. And then my favorite song that they have ever done was a cover of On My Mind by Ellie Goulding. Oh my gosh. I cannot tell you guys how good this is. I love bands like jazz bands, big bands, and the tightness of these horn sections. People, it is awesome. And they were able to do such awesome, cool stuff with an Ellie Goulding song. I mean, if there is one song that you listen to that you might want to end up, getting the feel for Ripe and then understanding the coolness of what they've been able to create, listen to On My Mind by Ripe. It's incredible. Absolutely just a banger. And from there, they released an album, a huge, like a full album, full-length album, Joy in the Wild Unknown, in 2018. And I gotta be honest, some of these songs are not my favorite. Sometimes I felt like the choruses didn't hit as hard as the verses did. And sometimes I feel like this, and like I mentioned with the 1975 in the last episode, it's like artists put so much pressure on themselves to create what the audience wants to hear, and they get lost in just vibing with their artistry. And so certain songs I loved, but then when it hit the chorus, it just didn't have that explosive element that I wanted. And it's also important to note that some songs, not every song needs to have an explosive element. We all think that every song that comes out needs to be the best song ever, but some songs can just be songs. Music can be music. You can vibe with it, and you can still dance to something even if it doesn't explode to the extent that, a top 10 pop song might. But I liked this album. I was so thankful for it. The song Little Lighter, awesome. And on that album now has their number 1 streamed song, which is Downward. It's really, really good. Just a really catchy tune. So check that out if you want as well. And from there, what's cool to note is that they've released 4 singles in 2020. My assumption, it is April 2021 at this point. My assumption why they haven't come out with another album or another EP is that they planned on touring alongside the release of this. I am sure that this was just going to catapult them into another realm of musical appreciation from such a larger audience. But, of course, as you're probably aware, there is a global pandemic that has been going on, at least in the U.S., for a little over a year. And I think that their intention of releasing an album or an EP alongside touring was just shot down by COVID-19. And it is really heartbreaking because the releases, 5 in the Morning, First Time Feeling, Little Less Polite, and Backup were all really good. I really liked First Time Feeling too, and you could tell that they were really just starting to go like, you know what? This is our sound. This is what we'll present you guys with. And it's sad that we haven't seen anything in a bit. But at the same time, it's good to know, or at least I think they were planning on creating more for everyone that wanted to listen to this freaking awesome groove machine. So with that, guys, I'll tune out here. I can't wait to chat with y'all next week. If you liked what you listened to, follow me on social media. And in the meantime, have a good one. Can't wait to dive into the new music, the charts, musical history, and my band of the week with you guys next week. Can't wait to talk to you then. Have a good one, and thank you guys again for tuning into the GSMC Music Podcast.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Music Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.